Comfort has a cost. What appears as ease today often becomes weakness tomorrow. The Stoics understood this clearly. They did not seek a life free from difficulty. They welcomed difficulty as a training ground for virtue. To them, ease was not a sign of progress. It was often a sign of decay. Modern life is designed to remove friction. But friction is where strength is formed. Without resistance, you do not build discipline. Without hardship, you do not gain endurance. Every shortcut erodes the very qualities you need to stand firm in the face of chaos. When you avoid discomfort, you avoid the very process that shapes character. To stop being soft is to start taking life seriously. It means turning away from excuses and facing what is in front of you. The Stoic path is not about appearing strong. It is about becoming strong by training the mind to meet life directly. That strength is not inherited. It is built. And it is built through the daily application of timeless principles. This is not about desensitizing yourself or removing your ability to feel. Many channels misrepresent Stoicism as emotional coldness, but that is inaccurate. The Stoics acknowledged emotion as part of human nature. They did not see feeling as weakness. They trained themselves to prevent emotion from clouding judgment or distorting perception. The goal was not to eliminate emotion, but to govern it. Through discipline, they preserved clarity and made space for reasoned response. The Stoics were not indifferent. They practiced compassion grounded in self-control. This video is divided into 10 chapters. Each one addresses a specific way we soften ourselves and how Stoic principles can reverse the process. The purpose is clarity. The aim is change. What you tolerate in yourself today becomes the standard you live by tomorrow. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Stop making excuses. Excuses are the earliest signal that discipline is weakening. They allow the mind to escape responsibility through justification. The Stoics saw this as the breakdown of reason. When a person rationalizes inaction, they separate intention from execution. What should be done becomes what is deferred. Over time, this pattern erodes character. Marcus Aurelius wrote repeatedly about his duty as a human being. He reminded himself each morning that he was not born for leisure but for effort, thought, and action. Nature gave him reason as a guide and expected him to use it. When he failed to act in alignment with his nature, he saw it as a form of self-betrayal. Excuses were not a harmless defense. They were a way of stepping away from the path of virtue. Excuses often seem harmless at first. They appear in the form of a missed commitment, a small delay, or a moment of indulgence dressed in logic. But each one weakens the link between who you say you are and what you actually do. The pattern sets in gradually. The person becomes reactive instead of directed. Soon, choices are made based on mood rather than principle. A Stoic breaks this pattern with awareness and accountability. They do not wait for ideal conditions to act. They begin where they are. Epictetus taught that outcomes are not fully within our control, but responses are. That responsibility begins with rejecting the impulse to explain away weakness. Clarity requires that you name your avoidance for what it is. An excuse is not a delay in timing. It is a withdrawal from effort. To reverse this, build a framework of self-honesty. Begin tracking moments when you choose ease over effort. Notice when you shift responsibility outside yourself. Examine what you gain from delay and whether that gain is worth the cost to your integrity. Replace vague statements like, "I'll try," or "maybe later," with direct action. Keep your word to yourself without exception. Discipline strengthens through repetition and structure. It does not rely on emotional spikes of motivation or temporary energy. It is formed through the daily choice to act even when conditions are not favorable. When you take action during discomfort, you are sending a clear message to yourself that effort is required regardless of how you feel. This message builds internal stability. The brain starts to associate action with principle instead of preference. You no longer need ideal moments to begin. You move when it is time. By acting in less than perfect situations, you create a tighter link between your thoughts and your behavior. This removes the delay between knowing and doing. Each time you move through resistance, you teach yourself that obstacles are part of the process, not a reason to stop. The more you act in discomfort, the less power discomfort holds. You no longer see it as a barrier. You recognize it as training. Excuses will always be present. They will arrive in different forms depending on the day. Sometimes they appear as tiredness, sometimes as fear, sometimes as clever logic that tells you rest is the better option. The environment will always offer these options. There will always be something easier, something quicker, something more pleasant. These are constant. What changes is your internal policy. You do not have to fight each excuse. You only need to hold to your standard. Once the standard is clear, decision-making becomes simple. If your standard is action, then emotion does not dictate behavior. If your standard is follow-through, then you remove the habit of negotiation. You no longer need to argue with your thoughts. The structure has already been chosen. You are not deciding whether to act. You are already committed to the action. This way of training the mind is not punishment. It is guidance. It teaches clarity through repetition. It makes effort familiar. Over time, the friction fades and is replaced with rhythm. You learn to move with purpose rather than delay. Your time and energy are no longer drained by hesitation. They are directed toward execution. A person who removes excuses becomes reliable. They speak less about goals and show more through their choices. They do not depend on reminders or external pressure. They operate from within. Their schedule is built around intention, not convenience. They speak clearly. They act without hesitation. They adjust when needed, but never abandon the task without reason. This is the point where real strength begins. It is not the absence of struggle. It is the decision to continue through it. When excuses are removed, all that remains is what needs to be done. From this place, you begin to build a life that reflects discipline, responsibility, and internal order. This is how you stop being soft. This is how you begin to build yourself into someone durable, useful, and consistent. Chapter 2. Embrace discomfort. Comfort is a slow decay. It reduces urgency. It weakens instinct. It dulls awareness. When life becomes too easy, the mind loses sharpness and the body loses strength. The Stoics understood this and trained against it. They exposed themselves to discomfort on purpose. They wanted to prepare for difficulty before it arrived. They saw comfort as a hidden threat, one that could take away the ability to endure. Voluntary discomfort was a common part of Stoic practice. They did not wait for hardship to come to them. They created small challenges daily. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that luxury weakens the soul. Seneca advised sleeping on the ground, wearing rough clothing, and eating cheap food. These exercises had a purpose. They removed fear by making discomfort familiar. The more you expose yourself to difficulty, the less it controls you. The mind adapts to what it repeats. If you live in comfort, your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Tasks begin to feel overwhelming. Delays become intolerable. Minor problems feel like major threats. On the other hand, if you train through discomfort, you gain capacity. You stop fearing effort. You stop avoiding resistance. You become harder to disturb and more capable under pressure. Intentional discomfort today does not need to be extreme. It might look like waking up earlier than usual, eating a plain meal without seasoning, or walking when it would be easier to drive. It might mean working in silence instead of using background noise. It can be something as simple as finishing a task in one sitting instead of splitting it up. These small acts recalibrate the nervous system. They remind the body and mind that ease is not required. Every time you choose the more difficult option, you strengthen your response to challenge. You stop relying on your surroundings to dictate your best behavior. You build a mindset that can function under pressure without constant support or encouragement. This habit trains the nervous system to remain steady even when conditions shift. It also reinforces a clear internal message. Difficulty is part of life, and it does not prevent forward movement. By acting through resistance, you build tolerance for stress. You become familiar with effort that produces no immediate reward. This creates durable confidence. You know you can follow through without applause. You know you can continue without external approval. These small actions build internal stability. They teach the mind that energy comes from commitment, not comfort. Training through discomfort is deliberate. It is structured. It is not harsh discipline for its own sake. It is repetition designed to replace reactivity with clarity. Each situation where friction is present becomes a rehearsal. You test how you respond. You study your reactions. You see where your discipline fails and where it holds. Over time, these tests reveal progress. You develop steadiness in situations that once triggered avoidance. Using discomfort this way helps the mind to separate feeling from behavior. You feel the strain, but you still act. You experience fatigue, but you still engage. You notice the resistance, but you do not withdraw. This process makes effort normal. It builds a direct path between intention and execution. Growth happens in moments of tension. That tension demands a clear decision. You either give in or you continue. Each time you continue, you expand your capacity. Your ability to endure becomes part of your identity. What once caused hesitation now becomes familiar. You do not wait for things to get easier. You bring yourself up to meet them. Eventually, comfort loses its grip. It no longer dictates your actions. You can function in any setting because your strength is internal. You adjust your pace, not your standard. You do what is necessary without needing perfect motivation. To embrace discomfort is to prepare for reality. Life will challenge you. It will test your patience, your resolve, and your priorities. Training now allows you to meet those moments with less surprise. It allows you to hold your ground. That is the value of toughness. That is why difficulty is useful. It gives you a structure to build on. A life built on that foundation will not fall apart at the first sign of pressure. Chapter 3. Control your emotions. Emotions are part of human experience. They signal internal states, reflect values, and highlight where attention is needed. The Stoics did not seek to erase emotion. They developed the ability to observe emotion without letting it override thought. This requires training the mind to pause, evaluate, and respond in alignment with principle rather than impulse. Unchecked emotion creates instability. Anger narrows vision. Fear stalls movement. Desire pulls attention away from what matters. When emotions dominate behavior, decisions become inconsistent. The Stoic works to create space between feeling and action. This space allows reason to function. It restores order to the mind. Marcus Aurelius described the ideal mind as a fortress. He aimed to preserve calm within, even when the world around him was chaotic. He ruled an empire during war, illness, and betrayal, yet he focused each day on his inner state. He wrote reminders to remain steady, to return to reason, and to master the urge to lash out or collapse under stress. The Stoic studies emotion without judgment. When anger appears, they look at its cause. When fear arises, they examine the belief behind it. This does not mean avoiding what is felt. It means facing it directly and asking whether it leads towards strength or away from it. Emotions become teachers when handled with awareness. Developing this awareness begins with pause. When emotion starts to rise, slow the process. Take a single breath before acting. Step back from the urge to respond immediately. This is not avoidance, it is structure. The pause breaks the automatic link between emotion and behavior. It restores choice. Journaling supports this process. Write down what you feel without filtering it. Ask where the emotion came from. Identify what triggered it and whether it fits with the reality of the situation. Then ask what behavior would be most consistent with your values. This creates clarity. Over time, the practice reduces confusion and sharpens perception. The goal is not to remove emotion. The goal is to understand it and reduce its control over action. When emotions become signals rather than commands, they lose their disruptive power. Anger becomes a cue to investigate boundaries. Fear becomes a prompt to assess risk clearly. Desire becomes a chance to examine priorities. The mind trained in this way gains stability. It holds its form under pressure. It does not chase every reaction. It does not spiral into overthinking or overreacting. It stays grounded in what can be controlled: thoughts, choices, and effort. This kind of mind responds with intention. It does not drift or collapse in moments of stress. A person who gains control over their emotions becomes steady in every environment. They remain composed during conflict and stable under pressure. They do not inflame difficult situations. They help contain them. When others are reactive, they remain clear. This clarity reduces tension and prevents unnecessary escalation. Their actions are measured, deliberate, and anchored in thought rather than mood. Their ability to remain calm is not an accident. It is built through continuous effort. They train themselves daily to observe rather than react. They review their behavior and identify emotional patterns. They reflect after conversations, during solitude, and in moments of tension. Over time, this repetition forms a stable core. Their presence becomes grounded, and others begin to sense that stability. This presence influences the environment. People respond to calm with respect. They trust the person who does not shift with every emotion. This builds credibility. It builds quiet authority. Those who remain steady become dependable. In crisis, they are looked to for guidance. In difficulty, they are the ones who remain useful. Their reliability is a result of their self-regulation. This presence is not based on surface appearance. It is earned through the repeated choice to pause before speaking, to examine before acting, and to hold steady under pressure. The person develops self-trust through repetition. They know how they will behave in challenge because they have trained for it. This makes their responses less dependent on external validation. Emotional resilience is formed in these small decisions. It is not a single event, but a process of shaping behavior over time. The Stoic returns again and again to the same principles. They do not need new methods. They practice the fundamentals. This repetition allows them to move through emotion with clarity and without confusion. Discipline helps the mind become less reactive. Self-awareness reduces error. Constant return to reason keeps the path straight. These habits shape the internal world. They protect the mind from being pulled in every direction. When this training becomes part of daily life, the person no longer relies on ideal conditions to stay balanced. They carry their clarity with them. Chapter 4. Build a routine of discipline. Strength develops through consistent structure. It does not appear through luck or bursts of energy. It is created by the repetition of specific actions over time. The Stoics recognized that daily habits shape long-term character. What you do regularly becomes what you rely on in moments of pressure. If your actions are deliberate, your responses will be deliberate. If your actions are reactive, your responses will follow the same pattern. Discipline is not based on natural talent. It is a choice that is made daily. Epictetus told his students that living with principle requires the same seriousness as athletic training. Athletes do not train when they feel like it. They train because their identity demands it. Philosophical practice follows the same idea. To live well, you need to act with purpose. That purpose is expressed through routine. Discipline means creating clear standards for yourself. These standards are not based on mood. They are not adjusted for convenience. They hold firm across good days and bad. Discipline is doing what is necessary even when the mind resists. It is the ability to complete small tasks without needing motivation. This consistency is what builds reliability. A daily routine helps remove decision fatigue. It provides structure that supports mental clarity. When basic behaviors are scheduled and repeated, they free mental energy for harder problems. This is why the Stoics valued planning. Morning reflections prepared them for the day. Evening reviews allowed them to learn from it. They kept their days simple so their minds could stay focused. Creating a routine does not require extreme changes. It begins with one action. That action must be done every day without exception. It might be waking up at a set time, reading a Stoic passage, or journaling for 5 minutes. The goal is to keep the habit unbroken. Once that action is automatic, another is added. This slow, steady layering creates a stable daily rhythm. Removing distractions is also part of building discipline. A routine is not only about what you add, it is also about what you subtract. Each distraction you eliminate makes it easier to focus. This might mean turning off unnecessary notifications, limiting media, or simplifying your environment. These small steps reduce friction. They create conditions where follow-through becomes natural. Intensity fades, reliability remains. Discipline is measured by how often you return to the task, not how dramatic your effort looks. Every completed repetition reinforces identity. Each act of follow-through confirms your direction. These small confirmations build strength over time. The mind begins to trust your decisions. Doubt is reduced. Internal conflict weakens. Eventually, discipline becomes a natural part of how you carry yourself. It shows in how you speak, how you move, how you start your day, and how you follow through on your tasks. You no longer waste time deciding whether to act. The decision is already part of your system. You move from planning into execution with little resistance. This lowers the mental effort spent on hesitation. You preserve energy for the task instead of losing it to internal debate. This stability simplifies your life. When you eliminate the habit of second-guessing, you also eliminate the stress that comes with it. You stop feeling guilty for what you avoid. You stop postponing actions that repeat in your mind. You develop a sense of quiet confidence because you know what is expected of you, and you follow through. Your sense of identity becomes clearer because your behavior aligns with your values. This type of consistency frees the mind. When your daily routine is anchored by reliable habits, you can focus more deeply on things that matter. You are no longer pulled in multiple directions. You have fewer distractions to manage and fewer decisions to negotiate. This allows for higher quality effort. You can work longer, stay present, and rest without unfinished tasks lingering in your thoughts. The Stoic builds this kind of order through deliberate repetition. They focus on what can be controlled. They keep their habits simple and consistent. They review their days and refine their actions. Over time, these repetitions form structure. That structure becomes the foundation of reliability, both in private and in public. Others notice the consistency. Trust grows. Respect follows. Discipline becomes the baseline. It no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes familiar. The mind expects order. The body responds to it. You do not need dramatic changes. You rely on small daily actions repeated until they take root. Each one reinforces the next. The result is a stable, clear, and disciplined life. Chapter 5. Tame your desires. Desire is often the beginning of suffering. The Stoics observed that craving pulls the mind out of balance. When desire takes control, reason is weakened. You begin to chase temporary relief instead of long-term strength. The more you pursue comfort without limit, the more dependent you become on it. This weakens both character and peace of mind. Seneca wrote that the person who needs little is richest. He warned that luxury creates false needs. Each indulgence added to your lifestyle becomes a new vulnerability. When the object of desire is taken away, it causes agitation. When it is fulfilled, it brings only short-lived relief. The cycle repeats. The Stoic aims to break that cycle by reducing unnecessary wants. Desire shows itself in many forms. It may be the need for validation, the urge to climb social ranks, or the drive to experience quick hits of pleasure. These can include substances like alcohol or nicotine, digital temptations like explicit material, or habits like scrolling endlessly to avoid boredom. Some cravings are linked to the body, like hunger or physical comfort. Others are psychological, linked to attention, novelty, or reassurance. These desires can seem harmless in isolation, but when they shape your decisions, they reduce your independence. When the mind becomes trained to seek out pleasure automatically, it starts outsourcing direction. You begin to respond to what feels good instead of what is right. This creates dependency. Your sense of peace becomes attached to objects, experiences, or outcomes that are outside your control. If they are unavailable, stress increases. If they are removed, identity feels threatened. This is how unchecked desire leads to suffering. The Stoic does not ignore desire. They examine it carefully. They pause when it arises and observe its structure. They question where it originated and whether it is built on truth or habit. Most cravings are learned. They are reinforced by repetition and external influence. By slowing down and asking whether something is truly necessary, the Stoic regains agency. They do not silence the craving through force. They reduce its weight by bringing attention to it. Desires often emerge from social conditioning. Advertisements, trends, and digital media feed new wants into the mind constantly. Without discipline, these wants accumulate and become standards. They are not questioned, they are followed. This weakens autonomy. A person who does not examine desire becomes reactive and scattered. Their energy is divided across too many pursuits. The Stoic simplifies. They choose fewer inputs and deeper attention. They reduce noise so they can hear their own judgment clearly. Enjoying simple things is part of this training. A basic meal teaches that flavor is not the measure of satisfaction. A quiet walk shows that presence does not require stimulation. Finishing a task proves that meaning is found in completion, not in applause. These moments build a calm mind. To strengthen this practice, the Stoic uses fasting, not only from food, but from comfort in general. Take time away from pleasure on purpose. Delay gratification even when it's within reach. Replace convenience with effort occasionally. Each fast is a reminder that comfort is not essential. It is optional. The body can function without instant pleasure. The mind can hold focus without escape. These are skills, and they improve with repetition. With each act of discipline, you take control of your choices. Each time you say no to a craving, you make your reasoning stronger than your impulse. The desire may still appear, but you understand it better. You are not confused by it. You know it will pass. You observe it without giving it control. This increases your ability to hold your ground. You build patience through restraint. You build mental endurance by choosing principles over comfort. These repeated moments of self-regulation strengthen your self-trust. You begin to rely on your ability to stay committed. The more you act with restraint, the more your identity becomes linked to control instead of craving. Each time you act with discipline, you prove to yourself that you are capable of managing desire rather than being directed by it. This makes your confidence more stable. It is not based on appearance or achievement. It is based on a quiet understanding that you can say no when needed. The constant need for satisfaction begins to fade. You do not look for comfort in every moment. You stop chasing entertainment as a way to avoid discomfort. You are more at ease in silence, in stillness, in effort without reward. Your sense of peace begins to come from structure rather than escape. You begin to feel aligned, not pulled in multiple directions. This internal alignment reduces anxiety. When you are no longer driven by constant desire, your reactions become slower, more thoughtful, and more intentional. You are less thrown off by changes. You can accept delay without agitation. You are less dependent on external approval, physical pleasures, or instant outcomes. This creates stability. You become harder to manipulate. You are less influenced by marketing, peer pressure, or emotional appeal. Your decisions reflect clarity. You begin to choose what supports long-term strength, not what gives short-term relief. Your actions support your goals. Your life becomes more focused and deliberate. This condition of mind was the goal of Stoic practice. It was not the removal of pleasure, but the mastery of response. When the mind is clear, it does not seek to chase or escape. It remains steady. When you no longer need to satisfy every urge, you move through life without being pulled off course. You decide your direction. You follow it with control. Chapter 6. Master your attention. Attention is the foundation of self-control. Where your attention goes, your actions follow. If your mind is scattered, your energy will be scattered. The Stoics trained their focus the way others train strength. They gave attention only to what was useful, real, and within their power. Anything else was dismissed. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often to return to the present moment. He wrote about staying within the limits of the task at hand, not drifting into imagination or fear about the future. This mental discipline allowed him to lead an empire during crisis without being mentally overwhelmed. Today's world is built to steal your attention. Digital platforms compete for every second. Information overload keeps the mind busy but unfocused. The cost is clarity. The mind that is always distracted forgets what it was trying to do. It reacts to noise instead of responding with purpose. The Stoic solution is to take control of inputs. Decide what earns your attention. Design your environment to reduce interruption. Remove non-essential media. Limit your exposure to opinion and noise. Replace scattered consumption with deliberate reflection. Start small. Create blocks of time where your phone is off. Set fixed times to check messages or social feeds. Read slowly and with focus. Write without checking notifications. These are basic steps, but they help rebuild attention span. Stoics trained the mind to return to the present. When distracted, they did not criticize themselves. They returned quietly and resumed the task. This builds mental discipline over time. Repetition creates focus. Focus creates peace. Attention is a limited resource. Where you direct it shapes your day. Where you direct it consistently shapes your life. Mastering attention is a key step toward mastering the self. Without it, no other strength can be sustained. Chapter 7. Respect time. Time is your most limited resource. Once lost, it cannot be regained. The Stoics viewed wasted time as a moral failure. Seneca wrote that people guard their property but waste their time carelessly, as if they can always get more. Every distraction, every delay, every unnecessary indulgence costs time. The Stoic sees these costs clearly. They do not fill the day with motion and call it progress. They ask whether each action matters, whether it supports their values, whether it leads toward the person they aim to become. Time must be accounted for. You do this by reviewing your day and planning with intention. You decide what deserves your energy and when it should be given. You remove habits that drain without return. You stop letting others dictate your time with demands that don't align with your priorities. Use blocks of focused effort. Create boundaries around your day. Protect mornings. Use evenings for review. Let routine act as a container for your energy. This keeps your effort from spilling in every direction. Wasting time creates regret. Protecting it builds confidence. You begin to trust how you spend your day. You begin to see progress that is real. This consistency builds identity. It replaces drifting with direction. Respecting time is not about being busy. It is about being deliberate. You know what matters, and you act accordingly. That is what gives time its value. Chapter 8. End dependency on approval. Approval seeking weakens judgment. When you need permission to act, you place your future in the hands of others. The Stoics saw this as dangerous. It made your peace conditional and your character unstable. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that praise adds nothing to a thing's value. An action is either right or it is not. How others respond does not change its worth. Relying on praise is like chasing shadows, always moving, never solid. The Stoic builds independence by acting from principle. They decide what is good, then do it. They listen to criticism, but they do not let it govern them. They are polite, but not dependent on agreement. This practice requires honesty. You must know why you do what you do. You must be clear on your values. Without that clarity, you will drift into pleasing everyone and pleasing no one. To apply this, speak less about what you plan to do. Do it. Let your actions speak. Stop asking for validation before you move. Take small steps without announcing them. Let your behavior reflect your convictions. You do not need approval to live well. You need alignment between thought and action. That is what gives you inner confidence. That is what makes you durable in uncertain times. The Stoic does not reject praise. They just don't rely on it. They keep their compass internal. This makes them steady, even when others change. Chapter 9. Face responsibility head-on. Responsibility cannot be avoided without cost. The longer you delay facing it, the more complex and burdensome it becomes. Each day of avoidance increases the weight. Each missed decision builds more consequences. The Stoic addresses responsibility early. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They begin with what is in front of them. They understand that waiting wastes time and erodes readiness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that time was passing quickly. He wrote that action is needed now, not later. He viewed hesitation as a form of self-abandonment. Life moves forward, whether you act or not. The Stoic recognizes this. They do not pass off responsibility when they are capable of meeting it. They take ownership without needing to be told. Responsibility is a builder of inner structure. It creates alignment between your actions and your role. When you accept responsibility for your behavior, your tasks, and your influence in a situation, you gain clarity. It becomes easier to see what belongs to you and what does not. You stop wasting energy trying to control what is outside your reach. Instead, you focus fully on what is within your command. This focus brings form to your life. Each decision gains purpose. Each task fits into a larger structure. You understand what needs to be done and why it matters. Your priorities become clearer. You begin to move with direction rather than drift between obligations. You build consistency by acting on what is required of you, not just what feels easy in the moment. The tendency to avoid responsibility often comes from the discomfort it creates. It demands energy, attention, and accountability. It often arrives with uncertainty. You may not know how things will turn out. You may fear making the wrong move. But the longer you wait, the more complicated things become. Delayed decisions invite confusion. Ignored duties accumulate into stress. Over time, this creates a life filled with loose ends and unspoken tension. The Stoic trains to carry this weight. They understand that pressure refines character. They do not seek it out for suffering's sake, but they are willing to step into it to gain strength. They act while others wait. They respond while others retreat. They grow by doing what must be done, not what is most comfortable. This growth happens through daily repetition. You return to the same core actions again and again. You handle your environment. You finish what you start. You become reliable with your word. You respond with honesty. These behaviors are small on the surface, but they build the foundation of a dependable life. They are visible to others. They are visible to you. They change how you see yourself. You learn that discomfort does not damage you. It reveals what you rely on. It exposes the limits of your preparation and demands clarity. It draws your attention to weak points and forces you to confront what you tend to avoid. Discomfort becomes useful. It sharpens your ability to think clearly under pressure. It teaches you how to stay composed during uncertainty. When you train yourself to respond with discipline rather than avoidance, you shift your internal response system. Your default becomes action, not escape. This mindset is shaped by repetition. Each time you lean into discomfort and complete what you intended, your mind adapts. The task becomes less intimidating. You stop expecting comfort to be a requirement. You stop building your habits around convenience. You learn to move when it is time to move. This steady approach prepares you for more complex challenges. You begin to welcome pressure as a sign that growth is available. You do not need to take on major responsibilities to build this. Begin with what is right in front of you. Wake up at the time you planned. Keep your space clean. Follow through on the tasks you often delay. Respond to messages you avoid. Tell the truth even when it's awkward. These are all forms of personal accountability. They help you become someone who can handle more. Each small completion gives you proof that you are becoming more disciplined and consistent. These patterns shape identity over time. You stop needing external reinforcement to stay on track. You stop negotiating with yourself. You begin to trust your own commitment. You become more predictable in the right way. You start building your schedule around what needs to be done, not around what you feel like doing. This reduces conflict between what you want and what is required. As you develop this posture, you begin to expect more from yourself. You spot gaps before they become problems. You respond faster and more directly. You lead by presence rather than by position. Others begin to rely on you, not because you ask for their trust, but because your behavior earns it. You handle what others leave unfinished. You solve what others delay. You keep pace even when others stall. Responsibility becomes something you carry by choice. You recognize it as part of your role in life. It reflects your maturity, not just your obligations. When you take it on willingly, it becomes a sign that you are ready to move with purpose. Your actions are no longer driven by pressure. They are shaped by a personal standard that does not require external motivation. This shift changes how you approach every situation. You no longer wait to be told what matters. You begin to see clearly what must be handled and when to step forward. You begin to respond early instead of waiting. You organize your time with intention. You prepare without being reminded. You anticipate needs and meet them before they become problems. You are not doing more for recognition. You are doing more because it becomes natural to do so. The habit of moving forward without being asked reinforces your credibility. It builds a reputation that others trust, and more importantly, it strengthens your trust in yourself. This mindset builds a quiet and steady form of leadership. You do not need to raise your voice. You lead by what you complete. You guide through your consistency. When others hesitate, you act. When others make excuses, you simplify and follow through. You bring stability into uncertain spaces. Others begin to look to you without being told to. They rely on your steadiness because it has proven itself through repetition. The Stoic trains for this kind of leadership by choosing clarity over avoidance. They build discipline through daily structure. They maintain routines that reduce chaos. They strengthen habits that support long-term action. Their goal is to bring form to what is unstable and to stay centered when the environment shifts. They do not resist responsibility. They use it as a method of growth. It sharpens their values, tests their decisions, and holds their behavior accountable. Carrying responsibility by choice turns obligation into opportunity. It gives weight to your presence. It turns every task into a reflection of your principles. It helps you stop drifting through the day and start acting with direction. This is the standard the Stoic holds. This is how they form strength, by stepping into what others avoid and staying there long enough to shape it. Chapter 10. Live as an example. Words fade, actions remain. Over time, talk loses power if it is not supported by conduct. The Stoic understands this. They focus on living in a way that teaches through example. Their life is their statement. Their behavior is their message. They do not rely on persuasion. They show their values through repetition. Their consistency becomes a model that others observe, even without being told to. Living this way requires control and consistency. You cannot speak of strength while practicing weakness. You cannot claim discipline while living in disorder. Your actions must align with what you claim to value. If you believe in clarity, your decisions must reflect it. If you believe in endurance, your work must prove it. Each repeated behavior either reinforces your values or contradicts them. The Stoic does not assume they will always meet their standard. They fall short at times. When they do, they reflect honestly, correct course, and move forward. They do not shift blame or invent explanations. They improve. This process of self-correction reinforces their commitment. It strengthens their foundation. They gain clarity through adjustment. This pattern of discipline becomes a model that others can learn from, even in silence. A life of example does not depend on being seen. The work continues when no one is watching. The principles hold even when they are not praised. Showing up, completing tasks, telling the truth, staying composed, these habits shape a person's identity. Over time, others take note. People learn more from what is repeated than what is announced. They trust patterns. They follow steadiness. Influence does not begin with the world. It begins with yourself. You shape others only after you have shaped your own conduct. You lead best when you do not need to. When you uphold your own standards without needing reminders, your presence begins to carry more weight. It becomes clear that you are acting from conviction, not for attention. This kind of leadership does not require title or recognition. It is built gradually through repeated decisions. Presence is earned by consistency. Direction is maintained through deliberate action. The Stoic moves first by choice. They begin before the crowd does. They take what is theirs and follow through. They do not waste time explaining what they plan to do. They put effort into execution. Their character is built through follow-through, not performance. When difficulty increases, they do not withdraw. They act within their principles. That stability earns trust. Over time, others come to rely on it, not because it was demanded, but because it was demonstrated. Trust grows through behavior that remains steady across time. When others see that you respond the same way in calm and in conflict, they begin to depend on your posture. When people face uncertainty, they look to those who do not shift with pressure. Your steadiness becomes a tool they use to orient themselves. Without needing to explain your philosophy, you become an example of it. When others struggle with confusion, they notice your structure. It gives them something to consider. This is leadership through behavior, measured, repeatable, and earned. Living this way creates more than order. It reduces wasted energy. You do not need to keep defending your beliefs when your actions already confirm them. You do not need to correct others loudly when your conduct already shows the alternative. You become more useful because your effort is not divided between image and substance. In a crisis, your behavior does not become exaggerated, it becomes exact. In ordinary moments, you stay consistent. That dependability is what people begin to look for. It becomes more visible in moments of uncertainty, which is when leadership is needed most. You create clarity through motion. You reduce uncertainty through steady, task-oriented behavior. You limit confusion by showing what is possible through completion, not discussion. Your presence brings down tension, not through speeches, but through reliability. When others hesitate or worry, you continue the task. You finish what you begin. This becomes a point of reference for others who are unsure. You lead by maintaining your direction while the environment shifts. You follow your principles in all conditions. You stay disciplined when no one is watching. You hold the same standard whether you are praised or ignored. There is no division between your values and your actions. What you believe shows up in your daily decisions. Your conduct remains stable under pressure. This creates a pattern that others learn from without needing to be told. They see that the right choice is possible without argument. They see that strength is compatible with restraint. You keep your structure intact through simplicity. You act clearly. You avoid unnecessary attention. You reduce emotional noise by staying focused on your responsibilities. This steady posture earns respect. People rely on your consistency because it is visible over time. They trust your judgment because it is based on repeated discipline, not sudden performance. When others feel unstable, they look to what has not changed. That is often the person who keeps moving forward with clarity. This is what the Stoics trained to become. Their goal was to reduce internal contradiction. They worked to make sure that their decisions matched their values. They used daily routines to sharpen their habits. They examined their behavior with honesty. They corrected it with patience. They repeated this process often enough that their responses became measured and dependable. Their character was visible through repetition, not explanation. They did not need to explain their philosophy in words. It became clear in the way they responded to difficulty. It was visible in the way they carried themselves during quiet moments and high-pressure situations. They did not need approval to remain consistent. They did not rely on the spotlight to stay accountable. They upheld their principles through small and repeated actions. Their choices formed a pattern that was easy to observe and difficult to ignore. They handled adversity without complaint. They kept their commitments without needing reminders. They moved through tasks without making excuses. This steady behavior made their values known without the need for slogans or debate. Their life was organized around principles that were reinforced through daily routines. They created structure not just to be efficient, but to stay clear-minded in unstable settings. Structure helped reduce hesitation. It created a rhythm for focus and action. Even when external conditions became chaotic, their inner direction remained steady. Their identity was built on conduct, measurable actions repeated over time, not on how they were perceived by others. They prioritized what they could control and gave consistent effort to it. Focus was strengthened through repetition. Instead of seeking novelty or relying on moments of high energy, they relied on habits they had trained. When motivation faded, they kept going because the routine was already in place. This kind of system protected them from emotional swings. It provided grounding in uncertainty. When pressure increased, their response was already prepared. They had already tested themselves. Their process had already been built, adjusted, and improved through experience. That preparation removed the need for dramatic reactions. They stayed composed, moved forward, and adapted without collapse. Living this way replaces softness with reliability. It does not depend on ideal conditions. It adapts through order and effort. Each repetition builds self-trust. Each completed task sharpens clarity. With every choice rooted in principle, the person becomes more defined. Their posture improves. Their decisions align with values more often. When challenges appear, they act with greater precision. They rely less on impulse. They are less disrupted by conflict. Their choices become signals of structure, not responses to emotion. Discipline changes how they interpret difficulty. Hard moments are used to prove the system they live by. The Stoic does not need ideal surroundings to stay in motion. They know pressure is part of the path. They welcome it as a tool that reveals how well they've prepared. They stay composed, knowing they are supported by what they've practiced. Their system gives them a repeatable way forward. It reduces confusion. It gives structure to uncertainty. The Stoic holds that direction matters more than speed. They choose the next right action, not the most impressive one. They limit distractions by returning to principle. They build reliability by focusing on what is essential and doing it often. Their energy stays directed toward what has value. They become harder to knock off course. They require fewer resets. Their work improves. Their habits become stronger than their moods. Their response becomes dependable. Over time, the pattern becomes more stable. They learn how to remain consistent without external reward. They follow through when it is difficult. They stay on task without applause. They recognize that a reliable life is built in quiet, daily effort. Their system becomes part of their identity. It creates boundaries around what matters. It turns belief into behavior. This discipline carries into their words. They promise less and complete more. They choose when to speak. They act before they explain. Others begin to trust them without being asked to. Their presence becomes associated with steadiness. Their judgment is respected because it comes from experience, not guesswork. They have practiced what they speak about. Their advice carries weight because their behavior supports it. Eventually, they become a reference point for others. Their consistency becomes useful to those who feel lost. Their strength becomes visible through repetition. Their structure becomes something others notice during instability. This is how the Stoic becomes a source of clarity. They are not distracted by the noise. They stay close to their values, uphold their standards, and continue the work.